okay, I had to do a follow up. I had to. Obviously, I was there, and then they said that that they had done a video on class conflict, and I'm hardly gonna just not not anyway. Point is, this is a video about a libertarian who thinks that Marx was wrong, but also
Hey, you're next.
right about
Here's
some
an interesting
stuff.
question. You may have heard about the concept of class warfare, or the idea that there exist different classes of people, that those in one
Sorry.
class exploit and take advantage of the other, and that the history of humanity is a history of this constant struggle.
Well, it's not so much that there are different classes; that it creates different classes. Weirdly,
Of class warfare, or the idea that there exist different classes of people, that those in one class exploit and take advantage of the other, and that the history of humanity is a history.
it's literally just that the people who take advantage of each other are. It's not that, oh, these people in this class take advantage of these people. No. It's that the people who take advantage of people are, by virtue of their taking advantage in this class. You know.
Of this constant struggle between the class of honest people and those who are in an exploitative class, whose incentives lie in trying to
Wait, what did you say?
exploit and take advantage
Sorry.
of the other, and that the history of humanity is a history of this constant struggle between the class of honest people and
Honest.
those who are in an exploitative
No.
class, whose incentives lie in trying to control the others, often with varying forms
Not control. Profit from.
of coercion. This type of thinking is generally attributed to Karl Marx and his theories of class conflict and exploitation. The question is this: what if Marx was actually correct about both of these things, but fundamentally wrong on just what specifically classes are, and how the process of economic exploitation really operates? Let's now do
See, I think it's something we need to. I think you perhaps would want to look up some of the political things. I think this person doesn't have a great idea of what socialism or communism is, and Marxism probably. I would question the rest of that as
we
well.
dive into the Marxist theory of class conflict and identify what is wrong with it. Marx saw a class based on a person's relationship to the means of production. In other words, whether or not they own the stuff that is used to make more stuff. This is an oversimplification, but it's close enough. With set owners being referred to as the bourgeoisie class, and those who own land as landowners, and those who only have their labor being the proletariat.
Yes, well, it's more so that the people who own it and don't and who don't actually who own it for the purpose of generating profit.
Imagine a cereal making factory which produces delicious butter for you, sugary snowflakes, owned by Marissa, and a bunch of others as members of the proletariat. The plebs here only have their own labor to sustain themselves, and thus they must sell that labor to Marissa. While working in her factory, the plebs produce $500 worth of snowflakes each day, but Marissa only pays them $200 for their full day of labor. After another $200 costs of production are accounted for, Marissa is pocketing the remaining $100 as profit. According to Marx, this $100 should rightfully belong to workers and not Marissa, as it is value extraction of the product of their labor, which they refer to as surplus labor value. In simple terms, Marx argues that the difference between the value of what the proletariat
Yeah, and the idea is that the workers would own the factory. They wouldn't work for a random company that just exists in purpose just to use their labor. And it's a bit of an odd one, like why exactly is there this intermediary thing? Also, interestingly, there is the whole thing of, well, if we just say that they own the company which owns the factory, which would make sense, they own the company which owns the factory, that means that they just basically pay themselves $100 because as much as as what will the company use with the $100? The company will use the $100 to because profits are the thing we're calculating, and profits are, of course, mostly going to be going to executives.
labor made, and how much the bourgeois owner pays them is theft. This is the basis of Marxist exploitation theory. Communists will also argue that since in a capitalist society the workers are not allowed to simply take back this surplus, the relationship between them and the owner is a course of a combative one. Since the owner wants to maximize profit by paying the workers less, all the workers always want to make more. This difference in interest creates a class conflict. All this is an oversimplification, but if you have read any leftist theory or watched any comedy videos on the subject, you'll quickly find out this is pretty much how it
Get exclusive
Fuck's
five-a-side free
sake.
bets every
I just the ads are just I mean, anyway, I will say, it's not great to base your political ideology that you refute against video essays, because at least if someone is like, oh, this is what socialism is, it's like, not really, no, but like, it is an ideology. Like, sure, it's not really what socialism is, but it is a ideology that you can agree with, and if you do agree with that ideology, you may not be a socialist technically, but you are something, and the point is, that's a bit different. But if you disagree with it, and then you're going, oh, that's socialism, then it becomes a problem, because now you're saying it is something. You're saying, look, here's my argument against socialism, but that's not really argument against socialism, that's your argument against some ideology that someone's come up with. There are various ideologies that are labeled as socialist when they're not. Americans are probably one of the biggest when it comes to just political stupidity, because their system is very, very right-wing, so they kind of have to, re-establish what a centrist is, re-establish what a Democrat is. A Democrat is a left-winger, so that means that the center must be between the Republicans and the Democrats. Or maybe the Republicans are centrists and the Democrats are left-wingers. Then that's what creates this issue of, the problem. And then the perception as well.
So then, what
Are you okay? Is it okay to label the Democratic Party as left-wing? Well, then they have to shift that over. And it gets all very complicated. And that's why Americans have a very poor understanding of the left-right spectrum. And it's also why Americans are probably one of the biggest pusher forwards of the idea of removing it. Because, well, for them, yeah, it makes no fucking sense.
The answer that can be found by asking yourself this simple question: just where do the means of production come from, anyways? Let's say one of these plebs, let's just call him Bob, decides that they are going to stop whining and actually do something about their situation. So he decides to stop buying pumpkin spice lattes from Starbucks every day with the other plebs, as well as other cuts, until he's saving about 25% of his wages. Which after about 5 years, he has been able to open his own business.
How the fuck do you save 25% of your wages? You realize roughly 50% of your wages go on rent. 50%.
Which produces pumpkin soy. I mean, what else did you expect? Anyway.
What?
Until he's saving about 25%.
So
do something about their situation. So he decides to stop buying pumpkin spice lattes from Starbucks every day with the other plebs, as well as other cuts.
Okay, but that wouldn't work though.
Until he's saving about 25% of his wages. Which
You're
after
not going to be saving. You're just not. Like, objectively, you need to look at the actual amount of people who paid.
Years, he has been able to open his own business, which produces pumpkin soy. I mean, what else did you expect? Anyways, in terms of Marxist theory, Bob is now the owner of a means of production. Let's break down the requirements of what he did to achieve this. Well, first off is the difference in time references. The other plebs would rather enjoy instant gratification of lattes every day, rather than investing their money in
That's not what happens though. Like, if you look at it, it's generally middle class people who buy that, not workers. It's generally people who are higher up. They may not own their own business, but they're generally paid fairly well. So that's not actually a good example. It doesn't make much sense. It doesn't apply in real terms. Like this is just a thing which you need to be aware of because I know that this person got angry. Well, not angry. Got amused by, I would argue, the statement of being called a Nazi. But you are going to begin to sound like a fucking very right wing person, as in as in an idiot when you start going, well, just don't buy lattes. Like just don't buy lattes. Like I don't think I've ever purchased I don't even think I've ever purchased anything for Starbucks in my entire life, and I have been in a Starbucks before. And that's just a simple fact that from an economic point of view, I've never seen the value in that. Most people who are earning close to minimum wage, let's say in America around $20 per an hour, they're not buying lattes, and they're definitely not spending 25% of their fucking income on it, because that would be insane. Also, it would imply that you are either consuming a lot of lattes or else you are getting paid fucking awful wages.
future endeavors. And to some degree, this makes sense because tomorrow is uncertain. When given the choice of being given $1 grand,
Lattes are expensive, yes, but also not that expensive that you'd be saving 25% of your wages.
today, or being given $1 grand a year from now, just about every sane person will choose to be given that $1 grand now. This is because time itself is limited and thus has value, which is why in reality safe investments generally will pay you more for waiting, which explains why things like capital investments or certificates of deposit and various forms of investing exist, and why people will pay you
That depends, now.
for your time in this way. There's also the simple fact that Bob is taking a risk with his product. What if no one wants to buy his product? Bob has to hire some
Well, no, then he has excess product, which is why a lot of people buy products and produce products that they themselves would like. Thus, sure, if no one buys the product. Well, now they have the product. Especially what's very useful is if it's a disposable product, if it's a product you're constantly using, because at that point you can just go, okay, it costs far much more than it probably should have. But even if you spend millions on an idea, at least you still get that thing at the end of the day. So really, it's only when you have a concept where you start paying things like marketers and all that sort of stuff that it begins to rack up costs. That you just don't, you can't even see, didn't result in anything. Where it's like, well, you could have made this customly for yourself and it would be much cheaper. But at what point is that? What's the difference between you just going, well, no one produces pumpkin soy, in this area, so no one produces this. So how much would it cost for me to get this for myself, just myself, versus how much would it cost to set up a business to do this? And if you are looking for the low-cost version, you can rent out warehouses, rent out equipment, rent out all these things. You're paying a much bigger premium than if you just bought it. But the point is,
plans of his own to help produce in his factory, and while they are getting paid regardless of whether or not the pumpkin soy sells, Bob really only makes money if consumers decide his product is worth their money to part with it. This is where we start to see the real relationship between owner and worker. The so-called
the only issue with this, of course, is, well, most companies are not like that. Most companies are not owned by people who take risk. Also, the fact of the matter is that the workers are taking on the risk that the company will fail.
labor surplus, and just as easily be seen as the worker paying the owner for their time and risk investment. It is in fact a mutual
What? Sorry.
relationship between owner and worker. The so-called labor surplus, and just as easily be seen as the worker paying the owner for their time and risk investment. It is in fact
The workers are producing the good slash service. It also very much depends on what you do. If you're just paying money, if I'm a billionaire, I could tomorrow start a very successful business just by writing a check. I wouldn't obviously write a check. Checks are gonna high back. But the point is that it depends on what your level is. Interestingly, this is the thing of a investor and entrepreneur. So an entrepreneur with an E is somebody who has an idea and actually comes up with the idea and actually builds a business off of the idea. They may hire employees, but the thing is, it's their work that is initial. It's not, money is not the main thing in that scenario. In fact, most cases, entrepreneurs are people who don't have their own money, and they may have access to money via like the likes of banks or investors. But that's the key thing. You are taking a scenario like a cereal factory, which most of the people who own parts of the cereal factory are investors. They're not entrepreneurs, mostly because they're dead, most likely. When it comes to these kind of products, the people who came up with the business, they're dead, most likely. Their families are taking over at that point. What's that? So you could make this argument of similar to a patent law. You might argue, okay, well, you can have your business that's not cooperatived if you're an entrepreneur and you came up with the idea. You're not an investor. You didn't just write a check and have a bunch of people come up with the idea for you, or do all the work for you. You did the work of setting it up. You could do that, but when you die, it has to come to work around. Because the thing is, that's not how most businesses work. This is the sort of rose-tinted glasses version of like, well, okay, if it's a massive cereal factory like Kellogg's, are you actually arguing the person who a person slaved away, making little bowls of cereal in their garage, and like they were out in the farm, they rented out a piece of farm plot, they got some natural resources, or maybe they bought them from a farmer, and then they were able to make that into cereal, and they were selling the cereal themselves out of a garage, or whatever the case may be. Are you actually saying that that's how Kellogg's was started? And even if that was how Kellogg's was started, at this point, that's not how Kellogg's functions. So that would be an invalid thing. It wouldn't make much sense because at the end of the day, that's the difference between an entrepreneur and, of course, just an investor, just someone who has a share of ownership in a company. And of course, the company structure itself is different to the person. A company does not have a right to simply take its money. You could say, okay, fine, well, let's take that away from this point, and let's say, okay, instead of the company, let's focus on the person who started the company. The person who started the company can pay themselves maybe a little bit more. Maybe the person who started the company can pay themselves a big payout, but split over the course of a few years. But make sure that it is just a big payout. That we're aware this is what the payout is, and it's split across a few years to ensure the company doesn't bankrupt itself. Okay, and that's what we do. We don't just go, oh, the company is allowed to continue to take money from people because the company was set up. What did the company do? The company is just a legal construct. The company didn't do anything. You could say the entrepreneur did something, but at the end of the day, that's the thing that's not going to last forever. That person will die, or if you say that they deserve a payout of $1 million, okay, you pay them $1 million over however the course of period of time. Maybe you say that they get a $10,000 increase than they ordinarily should be paid. So over the course of 10 years, or maybe $1,000 over the course of 100 years, if you think they're going to last forever. But the point is, if you do that, you can have that system, and you can do that. And I would say that's something which maybe socialists wouldn't agree with that, but people who aren't on your side would definitely agree with that. But the thing is, that's not the company. That's not the company saying, oh, we deserve to keep that $100. That's the company saying, well, actually, our costs were actually higher than $100. They were $100. Sorry, what was the calculation? Was it 200? Or no, it was 500 and then 200 and 200. So sorry, our costs were higher than 200. They were 220, whatever the case may be. That's what you do, because when it comes to the cost of paying people, other than the actual workers, the actual, like, the executives, people who often their jobs are a bit dubious as to what they actually are working towards. Like, many offices' jobs are like, I'm not sure if this is just pushing stuff about. And you've many instances where people's jobs are hired out, they delegate work, and it's like, well, what work are you doing anyway? It's like, well, I'm doing this. It's like, well, no, you're not actually doing that because Richard's doing that. Actually, Richard's not doing that because Richard has delegated out to Joanna, and Joanna's actually not doing that because they have regulated that off to somebody else, and so on and so forth. We have loads of these problems. But the point is, there are other costs involved, and then just actual manufacturing. And those are the wages of other people, and that's the key thing. At that point, the business does not actually have a right to keep that money. You're still saying, at the end of the day, no, we have to give the leftover stuff to the workers. You're just saying, well, now let's give the entrepreneur a little bit more money then. So this wouldn't really work as an argument because it would still work. You just give the entrepreneur more money.
In fact, a mutually beneficial and voluntary transaction where time and risk are being traded for steady, guaranteed, immediate wages. Therefore, Marx's theory of class
exploitation. It's not really steady and guaranteed, is it, though? Like, if I'm running a business and I'm, not necessarily the best at it, I keep paying myself large amounts of money and the business fails. Okay, that wasn't guaranteed, though, was it? If workers weren't too happy with me paying myself large amounts of money,
It doesn't make any sense because it fails to account for this value of time, and it also fails to properly understand how.
The only issue with this is that, if I shot an entrepreneur through the head once they've started the company, no actual thing goes ahead there, Like, no problem occurs there because their job is done. That's it. It's gone now. They've done the job. Problem solved, right? Now, obviously, a worker, you could also do this, but the argument is, well, yeah, sure, you can do this to an individual worker, but the worker needs to be replaced. Whether it is by another worker or by a machine, the point is, that work needs to be done. While an entrepreneur's job is done as a concept, as a job. It's similar to this idea of automation, where people go, oh, these, they're racist, and these people are stealing our jobs. Actually, no. People aren't stealing your jobs. Your jobs are gone. They don't exist anymore because they're replaced by other things like robots. So, that's the biggest reason for a job loss. It's automation and efficiencies,
How time can be traded. The absence of this critical component of economics in Marx's theories completely ruins the basis of his thought process. Hence why he reaches such absurd conclusions in his class and exploitation theory.
See, the problem is you have completely mistook the fact that the company is separate from the actual person. It's this ideology of thinking of companies the same as people. It's not good. The company can pay the entrepreneur and entrepreneurs money for ideas. It can also just not pay them once they come up with the concept. If you really, really, really want your pumpkin soy, okay, there you go. Problem solved. There you are. There it is. It's there. Okay, it's there now. It's being produced. Bam. Maybe we pay you back for the money you invested. Okay, there you go. Here's your money back over the investment. We'll pay you back over to you over the course of this amount of years. Boom. Problem solved. That'll be your wages now. Now shut up. The company still, it makes profit. There we go. Once you've been repaid for the money that you've invested, boom, now we bring your wages back down to the level they should be at, or we just start remove you from the company. That's a factor which you're not including in this. You're not really comprehending that.
Theory. This also shows an additional flaw with the labor theory of value and its inferiority to the subjective theory of value, which Marxists often defend with a circular argument where their interpretation of empirical data is assumed to be correct in order to prove that it's correct, which is of course invalid reasoning, which I have already covered in my previous video on Musser plus labor value. This also shows why there's no coercion.
Not always, but
As it is entirely the plebs' choice whether they want to trade the labor and enjoy instant gratification with the money they get from working.
It's not, though. It's not though. Are you actually stupid, or is this like what? Like maybe I misunderstood. But do you not comprehend the fact that in a society where we say, oh, would you like to consume food? Yes, we would like if you had some money for that. Oh, how do you get money? Oh, well, what you do is you go over and you work for one of those people. I mean, you could start your own business, but you don't have the money for that. So, if you're lucky though, that person over there will give you some money. Maybe they'll give you some money. Yeah, one of those two people there. Yeah, one of them will take a share of your business far more than they would do if you paid for it yourself and then they took a share with that money. And the other person, well, they'll demand high amounts of money back in return, more money than you gave them, than they gave you rather. So that, yeah, but also they probably won't give you that money because they're not exactly the best. They're probably going to give it to see your man there, one of their mates. Yeah, that idea will still fail, yes, but
Maris's factory, or if they wish to tread the same path as Bob with a lower time preference. Their claims of coercion are based on the fact that in a capitalist society people are allowed to defend their private property, meaning their claims are nothing more than dishonesty, linguistic gymnastics. How they think that they should.
no, their system, right, is that, well, see, the thing is, you'll die if you don't have money, so you do need to earn money in some shape or fashion, and it means that because they can't just take it, legally speaking at least, that then that they should reorganize the economy to make it so
To
that,
be allowed to steal other people's property, and have simply reworded this belief to make it sound like they are the victims. The reality is,
no, it's not stealing because it's not actually yours in any essence. As in, you own the company in the essence that you legally do, but you didn't. Like you started it, sure, but like what? Okay, and like imagine if I'm an investor and I do that. I pay someone to research things, get things sorted, get production ramped up, maybe buy a factory, rent a factory out, all these things, and then after all that, I go, you know what? You're fired. Goodbye. I own the corporation, and I'm able to fire you. And the thing is that that's the thing that happens all the time. It makes sense. You remove the fat because that person is of no value. Now, in general sense, you don't actually fire the person. You just that's it. Their job is over now, and that's the point. An entrepreneur's job is over once they start the company. So why would they own it? You can say they should be paid for the money that they invested, but okay, after that, why?
no one is stopping those in the proletariat from exchanging their time preference to risk starting their own business.
Well, where's the money for them to start that?
Let's turn this upside down and show why Marx is actually correct about the existence of class coercion and exploitation in this world. He was only wrong about the specific details. If you have actually looked into what it takes to start a business, you may have noticed that it's not very easy. Allow me to introduce you to an alternative theory of class and exploitation. So ask yourself this: what does a robber have in common with a corrupt politician? The answer is that they both steal for a living using the threat of violent aggressive coercion, as opposed to actually producing a good or service that consumers would want to voluntarily purchase. Neither of them are producing anything.
The only issue with that is, of course, well, voluntary purchase. Like, if I scam someone, technically speaking, that is completely voluntary on that person's behalf to give me money, and they are happy with the situation until they find out they were scammed. I've talked to multiple people who have been scammed, and before they knew they were scammed, they're pretty happy. Like, oh yeah, I had a problem with my printer, but luckily it only cost 100 quid, and it was solved. If not, I wouldn't have been able to use the damn thing. Oh, that was good. Sure, it cost me like 500 quid. Like to them, yeah. If there was a problem with your printer, and you would have to buy a new one for 500 quid, and someone was able to solve it for 100 quid, yeah, it would make financial sense, and would it be a benefit to you that was the case. The only issue is that, yeah, turns out, buddy, boy, yeah, it turns out that wasn't that wasn't real. That person scammed you. But for that moment that you didn't realize that, it was true to say that you were happy with the situation. So voluntary is a bit of a bit dubious topic there because there are many scams that are legal. That okay. By the way, is this AI? Because
Of true value. Thus, they are both non-productive. In other words, there's a non-productive political class which uses aggression to get what
but
they want.
there's like an insane amount of non-productive people who are able to mask it as productive by just being like, well, customers are happy with what they purchased. Like, yes, they're very happy. That's not only the power of advertising, but also the power of just like you convince the customer that they should buy the product. That's not like it's not actually valuable to the customer.
And also with a productive class, which most of us belong to, where we operate.
The idea that there is a non-productive political class, which is that use aggression to get their way, and productive class, which accompanies its goals through the cooperation on trade.
Under the rules of producing a good or provide that which other people actually want. For the robber, this is obvious. He comes up to people, sticks it on their face, demands money, and then tries to live off this cycle of non-production, at least until he gets caught. But for the corrupt politician, things get more complicated, because he can make his actions of theft legal, at least in the eyes of the law he rules over. Your money is stolen from you indirectly via inflation due to bad monetary policy, indirectly via taxation. You have no say in this matter. You do not pay your taxes or live under these laws. Men with guns who work under corrupt politicians will come after you. If you resist, they will use violence against you. So this guy is therefore just as much an aggressive thug as a robber is. The reality of thievery has just been obfuscated with extra steps. And how does
Yeah, but the same goes ahead in the market.
he spend your money? Well, that's where the real exploitation comes in. He spends billions, sometimes even trillions, of your money benefiting his political allies, often creating subsidies and spending packages specifically designed to cater to them, while further using his power of coercion, arming his political opponents and or the competitors of his allies. Whether or not regular people actually want money to be spent in his desires is irrelevant, as that is the nature of the non-productive class. It gets to
Yeah, but once again, if I was advertised to you and say, Joe Biden wants to give young children free education. No, don't support Joe Biden today. Then you would actually be in the position of being, kind of wrong. You would believe that because you've been told, oh, that's this thing which is, kind of a problem. Which you, as someone goes, oh, that's not going to benefit me. But you go, okay, but hold on a second. you know, the way you own a business or the way you work in the business, when you want to retire, you're going to need somebody to, take over. And this free education is going to mean that there's going to be a lot of people who can get the opportunity to train and do your job. So when you're going to retire now, you can pass it on and ensure that the company that you own has somebody to continue working, doing your job or the job of the people you employ, whatever the case may be. Whatever job you have, you should want to have people to be educated. Unless, of course, you're somebody who works in the education industry, and even then, you can just take advantage of this by, literally just asking the government to just pay you, and that's not obviously socialism, but
Nor any voluntary market forces.
I'm just saying that at the end of the day, just because people say that it's not their choice, they don't like it, doesn't mean that that's smart. Doesn't mean that it doesn't benefit them.
Still use aggression to steal and reallocate resources instead of peaceful cooperation and trade that the productive class must sway by. A quick look through human history shows that this definition of class conflict is a much better fit than what Marx came up with. Just about every war that has been fought can be described as those with political power attempting to use aggression to force others to provide them with resources, and internal market struggles within a government can also be understood by this conflict between the peaceful and voluntary versus the aggressors who just take what they want. But to really understand this, let's go back to Mary's factory. Let's now say that
Really, if you really don't want to get the whole, you're a fascist, please don't use the whole AI and gaming thing. That really gives off the impression you are.
Marissa has a bigger competitor, Mr. Heckle, who produces inferior products, snowflakes, in larger quantities. But this is no concern to him, because unlike Marissa, Mr. Heckle has correctly identified corrupt politicians as being a member of the non-productive class, and he has no problem getting in on the action. So he's offered said politician a large sum of money as a campaign donation, wink wink nudge nudge, while asking for regulation to be passed that ban and some of the crucial ingredients present in snowflakes. The result is that Marissa is forced to shut down, and now the previous laborers in her factory must work for Mr. Heckle.
Well, no, they just changed their production.
Well, instead, who then exploits the artificially reduced competition in the market to cut their wages from $200 a day that they were making.
Okay.
Marissa up to $100 a day. It is this reduction of wages as a result of complex backroom deals involving the non-productive class. That is the true mechanism by which.
Okay. And alternatively, what they can do is just pay for a bunch of ads to attack politicians who don't support their thing.
Laborers' wages are being stolen from them. Ordinarily, those with skills working in a serial production factory would have multiple businesses to choose from to take on an employment contract, and the value of their labor would be based on the forces of supply and demand, just like everything else in the market.
That's actually not great, because supply and demand, once again, can be controlled. They could just say, oh, factory there, we'd like to buy you. We'd like to buy you. What? They're going to say no? Are they really going to say no? Are they really going to say no? Are they? Oh, okay, well, if they're investors, then that's bad for them. They're losing out money for what? For the fact that the workers are going to get hurt? But they're not going to get hurt. The workers are going to get hurt. So,
these factories which offer better pay and better benefits packages would be able to demand higher skilled workers. But now that it's
yeah, but if there's an oversupply of workers, then
as partnered with the non-productive political class to bully this competition away is rightfully a natural monopoly. The free market forces are no longer protecting workers' wages from being arbitrarily reduced. To make things even worse, these unnecessary aggressive regulations also make it harder, in some cases legally impossible, for Bob to build his own business. Bob now must trade significantly higher amounts of his time and effort, and it comes with significantly more risk, since there's a chance the politician could just shut down his newly built business for nonsensical made-up reasons at any time. And don't count on the mainstream media to tell the people the truth about what's going on. They too are in bed with the non-productive class and regularly benefit from their subsidies. They are on the scam, and thus work with the regime to keep people misinformed via propaganda. And so to wrap this up, I can finally talk about what this image,
unlike right-wing media, which is just really
right here, really means. It's not just the identity politics culture war that the left is distracted.
Right. What happens when the workers throughout all the factories say, we will not work for this? Because the problem really is that if you have an oversupply of workers, then the factory owner just goes, fine, I'll just hire your man instead. I won't hire you, because I'm going to push you down to get a oversupply. And of course, how do we do this? We just ensure that there's enough automation so that there is always an oversupply of workers. So we can always ensure that we can push them down. We can have internal class conflict. You have to fight your brother now, because do you want this job? There's only one job available. There's 4 of you. Who's going to quote me the lowest price? Let's go. Okay, fine. I'll do it for the lowest price. Okay. But if those 4 sit together, none of us will go for the job unless you pay this price. It's like, okay, fine, I'll pay the price. Boom, problem solved. Of course, not problem solved completely, obviously, but it's beginning of it.
But also an absurd and painfully misguided theory of class exploitation, which distracts them from the true class conflict, adding to their confusion and lack of understanding, furthering their status as a man who agrees with the establishment who thinks he's part of the resistance team. And you can see this in a lot of RedTube content. For all their talk of libertarian socialism and being against low hierarchies, they're very quick to justify voting for higher taxation and voting for greater power. The political non-productive class. The result is that regime remains in power.
Well, there's a reason for that. It tends to be the case that if you argue for a violent uprising, not only, by the way, will you get certainly some investigations from people, but also the likelihood of what will occur if you have violent protests. Some people will go, oh, these people are very popular and they want to take over and change the system. What if I happened to be a bit of a figurehead in that movement? What if that happened? I might be able to, become the next leader in charge. I might be able to seize that power, as it happened in the USSR, So, get a violent uprising, and then people who, I would argue, are not that socialist, decided, or communist, they were going to, take a little sack of power. Of course, that required them, offing some people, but,
just like they have always done. Anyways, that's all for now. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed the video, feel free to like, subscribe, tip, or leave a comment.
Not great, because it kind of misunderstands the concept of, the fact of the matter is that An entrepreneur doesn't really is not the same as a business. So business is separate, and as well, when you have this whole thing of, oh well, it doesn't, you don't need to worry, guys. There's a very simple solve to all these problems where you're being your wages, which is that when the corrupt politician passes these laws. Wait, hold on a second. What happens when the thing inside somebody's cereal is poisonous? Do we just not ban it? Do we just let people die, even though we're aware it's poisonous? Or what happens if we find out there's something very addictive? Okay, well, this is going to cause some real problems because this company is using a clearly known addictive substance in their product to make consumers addicted to the product, which leads to obesity, which leads to higher costs for those consumers. Those consumers are paying whatever amount they're paying, but they're going to get a lot more increased costs, and they're not really getting any more value out of it. You know, there's all these issues around these things that need to be addressed. What actually provides value? You know, this YouTube video, for example, how much value does it provide? If this was an educational YouTube video, it might provide value. But if it was an education video and was more of an edutainment video, where you weren't really being educated, you were just more, re-educating, sort of thing, or like, although re-educating has connotations to it that are not very good. This sort of, you have this sort of feeling of you're remembering stuff, but also being entertained. You're not really being entertained. It's just, supposed to be entertaining. And that idea behind it, which is okay, but if that's the case, then what value is that? This shouldn't exist in the market. YouTube shouldn't have stupid videos, but it does have stupid videos because stupid videos sell. And that's the problem. The market is about selling. The market is about profit. It's not about what's best for the consumer. It's not about supply and demand. It is literally about controlling all of that, ensuring that you have the most amount of profit available. If you want to legislate that away, you're going to have to admit that you then are arguing for, control over the market in some shape or form. Because currently, if I'm a business person, I want to make the most amount of profit, And if there's no corrupt politicians, what do? I just ensure that I just push people out. I become the corrupt person, You can have politicians who are not corrupt, they just honestly believe a thing. It's not about money, it's not about anything like that, it's not about even staying in power, it's just an honest belief. And that's a good thing, It's a good thing that there are politicians who will stick to their guns, that they will get no votes, and they'll go, yes, I'm not changing my policies, those are the things I believe in, that's it. But if you have a rich person who wants that change, they can ensure that that politician gets airtime, they can ensure that politician gets ads, they can ensure that politician gets all these things. Billions are spent on the US election. Billions. That is insane. You could solve so many problems in the US just with the money from the losing party. Just that money alone could help many problems. But so ask yourself that. Does that not concern you in the slightest bit? Anyway, yeah, fundamental misunderstanding of a couple of things. I think there is a key thing there, which is not really understanding many of the things that are important. But anyway, goodbye.